the loss of lives of the villagers in Oting village was indeed, it was disheartening, because normally, the army carries out surgical operations. It does not make these kind of mistakes. I guess things just went wrong. I mean, I've been in the army for 40 years. There's no criminal intent ever in our minds.
It will soon be a forgotten chapter, because, like everything else, as long as the media is following a certain issue, a certain incident, then it gets into the limelight, then some kind of intervention happens. And once it's out in the back burner, then it's forgotten. Now nobody's talking about it anymore.
The incident happened between the uniform and the non-uniform. Let us imagine. For example, when the government of India is having a talk with the militants in the northeast, I should say, when the talks is going on, when the ceasefire is going on in the Naga areas, why the government should not understand? Why the government is not respecting that kind of ceasefire agreement? That is the question.
They could have really stopped the vehicle and then got the occupants to get down and then check them and no fighting at all. But they didn't care for that. And at the back of the mind, they knew there's not going to be any repercussions, even if they go wrong.
They were trigger-hungry troops. They saw the vehicle coming and they started shooting them. In the vehicle, it was only 8 of them. And after killing 6 of them on the spot, the villagers rushed down after hearing the gunshot. And then they tried to inquire what had happened. But the security forces, by collecting the dead bodies in the vehicle, and they wanted to take it, and then they wanted to cover up with some army uniforms put in on the dead body, and they wanted to take it to head office, district headquarters, and they wanted to run away. So in this way, they tried to conceal the crime. But then, unfortunately, the civilians from the villages, they came and saw it, and then it was discovered.
And then, trying to hide those dead bodies or trying to cover up their tracks, that makes it even worse.
The people of Nagaland have also realized that the troops, 21 para, they were using a vehicle which had a fake number plate of Manipur. When the people went there, civilians went there, they tried to look at the number plate. There was an Assam number, the taxi number, which was number plate of Manipur was pasted on that with the PVC film.
I wish the company commander had held his fire. I wish he had told his troops not to fire till he, was absolutely 100% sure. So these are mistakes that the army has made, and we hope that these mistakes will be rectified and we change the standard operating procedures.
See, the thing is, Nagaland has suffered so many years because of this violence. We have ceasefire since 1997 in Nagaland. And while the people were expecting the early solution, and this kind of incident happening has taken them back to the same old memories of such incidents in the past.
The family of the victims are, they are poor people. They have no voice. It is the people who are educated, who have agency, who have a voice, who should be taking up this matter, who should be mustering strength across states, and who should be raking up this issue again and again. It cannot be forgotten. And the media has to also do its part. The media can't forget this incident and put it behind it, This is not fair on anyone, because after all, the media has to follow up a story. It can't leave a story half done, no.
They were innocent people. They were working in a coal mine. And such incidents have happened in the past as well. So the idea should be to prevent such incidents. Nation building takes a long time. There are genuine grievances of the people. Just by shooting some people, just by bulldozing the people's grievances, it's not possible to resolve the issue.
There was a young boy who was married only, say, 20 days back, he had married. So his wife, the young widow, there are a lot of such cases in one area. The victims' families, they have said we will not accept any ex gratia amount till the culprits are brought to the book.
Have been given 1 crore rupees or something, then I think that would have been a way of saying sorry. But here is just like flinging some coins at people who are poor, who don't have any, who maybe will take the money because they're so poor. But it is not a way of saying sorry. The way of saying sorry is that we will make sure that such things don't repeat.
I don't buy this. I don't buy this at all, because money and all these compensations can never make up for a human life. These are very paltry measures. Yeah, they are meant to just silence the families. That's all.
It's just such a terrible feeling, and to have got this information. I have a lot of good friends there, and a lot of them connected with me to tell me that, Jan Saab, what is this? And I apologized on the behalf of the army. I said, I'm so sorry. And I'm sure the army would have apologized too and said, look, we've made a mistake. It's an honest mistake, and please forgive us.
Suspecting civilians who have just come down from coal mining, who are known as a labor, let's just imagine. Let us just close our eyes and think for a second.
No, I was the Director General of the Assam Rifles also. And I've also been a company commander in Manipur, Nagaland. And I've also been the chairman of the Ceasefire Monitoring Group. And I've also been posted in Dimapur as a younger officer. So I'm well aware of the circumstances. I must again reiterate two issues. Firstly, any operation by the army has no criminal intent. The idea was to kill the insurgents of the Yungong faction, who are known to come there. I mean, I know it, and everybody who is there on the ground knows it. The Yungong is the only faction of the NSC and K that is not under the ceasefire. When the people are right, we should not be having these mistaken identities. Our intelligence should be good enough. We should be clear. We should not be doing things that hurt the people, and particularly the Naga people, and particularly the Konyaks.
What Home Minister admitted, that it was a mistaken identity. That is why the people of Nagaland are not happy with this, that acknowledging that it was a mistake. See, it was 21 para from Assam which was assigned this job. They were given this task to go at this place and carry out the operation. People of Nagaland, they want to know who gave the orders, what specific information they had. The thing is, they did not even try to find out who they were. I mean, they were indiscriminately fired upon from the front.
What is mistaken identity? I mean, how bad can your intelligence be that you shoot helpless people, unarmed people? Can't you make out, can't an counter-insurgency trained group not make out who is an insurgent and who isn't? Would insurgents go unarmed like that in an open truck?
Mistaken identity, even if that was the case, they could have been much more careful. This was just one vehicle coming up, and also it was crowded, and it was the narrow road, so they would have been coming very slow. So they could have easily stopped them.
Amisha's statement was very unfortunate, and it is not acceptable. He listened only to the army officers who are there, report of the army officers. He was not on the spot. So we don't accept his clarifications. The wrong inputs does not mean that you can go and kill anybody you want. And here, they were all innocent miners. They were returning home after weeks' work. And they had nothing to do with insurgency.
And this is the problem that has led to the firing in Oting. They said that it was wrong intelligence. Now, as a reasonable, sensitive, responsible public, we want to know, where did that intelligence come from? And why was it acted upon so hastily? Why are these questions not being asked? Don't we have the right to know who has given this intelligence? Does it mean tomorrow you will have another wrong intelligence and then you'll kill some other people as well?
It's late at night. A lot of things go wrong because of the own fear that the military might have. When it's late, it's cold, you've been chasing the insurgents for a while, you know you're in territory where you can get killed. All this also affects the minds of these soldiers who are carrying out operations. I have been in such operations myself as a younger officer, and all I can say is that this is a mistake. There is no doubt of it, because there is never an intent to go and kill civilian people. There's never this intent within the armed forces. That I can absolutely reiterate again and again, that the armed forces have no intent in killing their own people.
The SIT by the Nagaland police, they have done their investigation. They have also interrogated some of these troopers, those who took part in that action, killing the innocents. And their report is yet to be tabled. See, at the same time, we have Army's court of inquiry going on also. And then there's another inquiry by ordered by the Home Ministry to look into this, the demand of the Armed Forces Special Power Act, whether it should continue or not.
We get the impression that the army, by and large, has been getting away with such atrocities. Now let me give you an example. Now, recently I filed an RTI with the Ministry of Defence, asking them to give me information about the number of people convicted so far due to human rights violations. I requested them.
Of course, there is now an inquiry into the whole incident, but we know where these inquiries will reach. We have seen how those 1,528 cases of fake encounters have not been dealt with adequately, although the cases went to the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court had to ask an agency like the CBI to investigate this matter. And CBI is sitting on it, hasn't come up with anything.
This unfortunate incident has taken us back to the question whether the draconian laws like Armed Forces Special Powers Act should continue to exist in this country. Because, see, they were all civilians, unarmed. They had nothing to do with insurgency. In any case, Nagaland has ceasefire with all the groups. There's no active insurgency there, in any case. So, this has taken the entire peace process also on hold.
The AFSPA allows for the use of the power without any consequence, which is why the soldiers were less careful.
They have to compensate to the family members in whatever way is possible. But at the same time, this AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Power, must be repealed. This has been not only happening in Mon, but this has been happening in the past years, everywhere in the Naga areas.
AFSPA gives extraordinary powers to the army in counterinsurgency operations, and it is beyond any doubt. It has been established again and again that this law has been misused. The biggest justice can be done to this family by repealing AFSPA.
The office of All Naga Student Association Manipur, we have a very deep concern, and for that particular incident that happened, we personally visited the area also, the spot also, and we have come up with the agitation to repeal the AFSPA, and even we write up the memorandum to the Honorable Prime Minister also.
See, in 2005, the similar situation had happened in Manipur, which forced Center to announce a Jeevan Reddy Commission. It's a 3-member commission which went into pros and cons of Armed Forces Special Power Act, and they had come out clearly saying that this should be revoked completely.
If such things happens to the family, or either if that happens to your family, to the civilian, for example to you, will you accept it? We need justice. Justice means that the Armed Forces Special Power Act should be repealed.
And frankly speaking, you don't need a colonial law to govern an independent country. Why do you need an Armed Forces Special Powers Act which actually allows the army to come into a civilian space to deal with an internal problem when the army is trained to actually deal with an enemy country. You cannot tell those in the army to restrain themselves and to act differently with their own civilian population in their own country. So that is the biggest problem.
What we must do is, one, of course, the army has apologized. Two, we must help the families who have lost their family members by giving them jobs. Three, we must change our standard operating procedures there. Four, we must ensure that a mistake like this doesn't happen again. And fifth, like I've been stressing again and again, it's been 50, 60 years now. This armed insurgency started in Nagaland in 1956. We've had the Shillong Accord. We've had, in fact, the accord that the 10-point agreement that shaped, or 16-point agreement that shaped the state of Nagaland. We've had a lot of agreements before. By 1997, we also have all the major insurgent groups in the ceasefire. It's time now to hammer out this deal. You can't allow this to continue.
The onus is on the army, on the Assam Rifles, because they are the forces guarding, sort of giving counter-insurgency or engaging in counter-insurgency operations. So they have to bear the whole onus of this mistaken identity or wrong intel or whatever they want to call it. You can't blame anyone else. They have to take the flak. They have to take the blame.
What the army needs to do, or all the security forces, including the Assam Rifles, they need to really evaluate their strategy of combating the separatist militants.
India is going to turn 75 years soon. Why haven't we been able to come up with a counter-insurgency force? A special force, something like the National Security Guards. So you have a force that is trained especially for counter-insurgency. You cannot use the army forever. It's not fair on anyone. It's not fair on the army. It's not fair on the civilians.
There are approximately 7,000 separatist militants across the border, and the Indian Army is one of the largest in the world. The medal hunting has to come to an end. There is immense competition between the intelligence agencies. They don't share information easily. So the army needs to have its own information network in the areas, in the disturbed areas where it has been deployed.
I was there as the chairman of the Ceasefire Monitoring Group, and I have been, talking to all of them about closing this and getting this peace deal as quickly as possible. We must close this situation, must use the framework agreement and come to an agreement whereby we can get peace and where there can be lasting peace in Nagaland, so that these kind of mistakes, unfortunate operations do not reoccur.
Without any questions, exercising the power through guns, through ammunitions, it is not, such things should not be happen, because India is a democratic country after all.
The NSC and Khaplang group broke up into two factions. The Indian faction was led by General Khango, whom I had brought into the ceasefire when I was the chairman of the Ceasefire Monitoring Group. And I remember asking General Khango, I said, look, tell me, what are you really looking for? And he said, General Saab, I'm looking to unify my Konyak brothers. Immediately after this unfortunate killing happened, or unfortunate deaths happened, Khango issued a tweet and a letter in which he asked his, he asked his people, the Konyaks, he said, should I break up the ceasefire and return to the jungles? Obviously, he hasn't broken the ceasefire, so the people must have told him continue with the ceasefire.
If you want to bring peace, it is not by the war. It is through negotiation. It is through understanding each other. That is what I believe. India got independent not through war. It is all because of the civil movement, through peace, through talk.
You look at the hijab issue. Why is it there in the forefront? It's because every day the media is raking it. And that is because it's happening to the rest of India. When something happens in northeast India, it's very often forgotten. Now this whole thing, that Oting killing, has become a forgotten chapter. So that is my area of concern.
This is something I cannot reiterate more. We must tell the government of India to close this deal now and to get peace. We must have the NMPGs and the NSC and IM agree to a lasting peace, because that's the only way to ensure that such mistakes don't happen.
These are deaths, needless deaths, that will not have any big repercussions anywhere in the country. Only the family members of the dead will be mourning forever.